Hello, I'm Tom Stickle, and I'm the General Manager of Amazon GuardDuty. So I own engineering and product management for the GuardDuty service. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here, and I'm very happy and excited to be here in Japan to talk about GuardDuty with the audience here and tell you a bit about how the service has been doing over the last few months. So Amazon GuardDuty is a threat detection service. It's a service that continuously monitors your AWS accounts, along with the applications and services that run within them. It's a fully managed service, so it runs without any impact to application teams. The service will run in the application account, but doesn't require any additional infrastructure to run. The service can detect known threats as well as unknown threats. And what we do is we provide findings that are packed with information about the resources that are specific to AWS. So the findings are simple, packed with context, and they're easy to automate. And in terms of adoption, Amazon GuardDuty in the first 6 months has been the fastest growing service that we've ever launched at Amazon. So in terms of customer adoption, it's grown very quickly as a security service. So one of the reasons for the quick adoption was a very simple onboarding process that we have for the service. What we do is we wanted to make the service available for all customers, and we didn't want it to be too complex or intimidating. To enable the service, it's basically one button. It's Enable GuardDuty, and you press the button and the service starts monitoring your applications and services on your behalf. We also support multi-account configuration for security teams. So in addition to having a simple configuration option, we wanted to have the option to be able to support a security team that had to manage many accounts. And for that, we wanted the ability to push information like threat lists to a group of accounts. We also wanted the ability to aggregate findings back to a central account. And so we have a whole workflow for doing that. And this workflow will be compatible with AWS organizations. In addition, we have integration with CloudWatch events. And CloudWatch events allow us to take those findings and push them to subscribers. So things like Slack for findings and PagerDuty for findings, as well as AWS Lambda. So the service has done well because it was very well integrated at launch. We wanted a global service, so we launched in 15 regions at launch at reInvent and translated, localized into 7 languages. So it was very much a global launch. In addition to that, we have a complete API and SDKs with all of the languages supported. So Java, Go, Python, and CloudFormation support at launch. So a full set of APIs and CloudFormation at launch. So this was very important to us that we had a very well integrated offering at the time we launched it. We now support 15 regions, and we now have integration with CloudTrail. Tagging is supported. CloudWatch events is supported. And we have a whole set of open source projects that are also supported. And as a model for services, this is something that we're looking to do with all of our new services, is to really add this level of integration at launch time, so that so CloudFormation support doesn't come later, or API support doesn't come later. So the intrusion detection space has been around for a long time, and the way that this space worked traditionally was that products would take millions or billions of events and filter them down to thousands of events, and network security experts would interpret those events and make decisions about them, and it required a great deal of expertise. What we wanted to do is take a different approach to network threat detection, where we're not really looking for any odd behavior, and we're not really looking to tune the service for each application that you have, but we're really looking to help you understand malicious behavior and determine that for each application without any tuning required. So the GuardDuty model is very much about a small number of relevant findings. Our model looks for about 10 findings per day. That's what we modeled it per account. Less than 10 we consider to be good. More than 10 is probably too much. And then lots of context included in the findings to aid an investigation. So that's really the approach, where you'll see in our console, when you have a finding, you can click on network interfaces, EC2 resources, and you can actually connect all the way through subnets, et cetera. So the service is capable of detecting known threats as well as unknown threats. But known threats are basically actors that are out on the internet that we know about and we learn about through threat intelligence. So for example, we'll take malware, large collections of malware, and we'll detonate the malware, and we'll take the IP addresses and DNS entries from the malware, and we'll build threat lists from that. And we learn a lot about what the malware is targeting, or command and control facilities that malware is targeting. And then we integrate it with the service. And if we ever see interaction between a host that you own and a command and control facility on the internet, we know that that's probably not legitimate traffic. And so we consume threat intelligence from a variety of sources. One of those sources is AWS security, where we harvest malware and we build threat detection on our own. We also license commercial feeds for threat intelligence from partners. CrowdStrike is one of them, and Proofpoint is the other. They're two industry leaders in threat intelligence. We use some open source feeds to learn about anonymizing proxies on the internet, and we allow customers to upload their own threat intelligence as well. And we'll take trillions of events every day, and we'll analyze them against this reputation service that we've built from threat intelligence. One of the detections that's been very common is cryptocurrency or fraud detections. And we're even seeing malware now that's targeting cryptocurrencies. And GuardDuty has been very good at finding those types of activities that are running in an account where malware is involved. Beyond knowing your known threats, we really focus on understanding unknown threats. And we do this through analytics. And we build analytics with algorithms to detect unusual behavior from malicious actors. So our analytics will look for signal patterns for signatures. So for example, SSH brute force, we can look for packets per flow, and we can see a certain signal pattern when there's a large number of brute force events. We can also profile normal. So we'll take features of data and we'll store them away. And then we'll look for deviations from normal. So if you've never used a specific port before, and then several weeks later, we see activity on a port, that would be a deviation from normal, and it would be a detection that we would throw. If we see that coming from an unusual or a malicious host on the internet, then the priority of the finding will be even higher. And then we build machine learning classifiers. So we have a team of math PhDs who build analytics for the service. And they'll build detections that learn from the activity that's happening to help target detections for each application and to look for deviations from normal. And so that's really where the intellectual property of our service falls. These are hard to build. They require a large R&D research and development effort. So we have highly skilled data scientists, and they have to develop theoretical detection models. They have to experiment with those detection models. And they can spend many months working on these detection models and have them not work at all or be too noisy. And so it's an iterative process that we have to go through to build our analytics with testing, tuning, and validation. So let's take a look at what GuardDuty can detect. So if we look here, we have a very simple attack chain. And this is an attack where an attacker finds an open port that runs RDP. So it's a Windows machine. And they run an algorithm to try to brute force the Windows machine with an RDP brute force attack. And when they get into the machine, they want to install a backdoor so that they can get back into the machine, and what's called a remote access Trojan. And then they may exfiltrate credentials from the host. And this is the key difference between an attack that happens in the cloud versus on-premises attack. The big difference is that the attacker will try to pivot to control the cloud account as opposed to an Active Directory server or the types of resources that we would typically see on premises. So here, once we get credentials from the instance, the attacker will try to see what those credentials can get them access to. And they don't want to be caught, so they'll use an anonymizing proxy to try to connect into AWS and see what those credentials can do. And at that point, they will attempt to compromise the account. And if they compromise the account, we'll see usually two actions. One would be they will try to exfiltrate data. And one will be fraud. So they'll want to do cryptocurrency mining is the most common one. And often what they'll do is they'll go into an account in a region that you never use. So they'll go into the Brazil region, for example, and then spin up resources to do cryptocurrency mining. And so we want to be able to detect all aspects of this attack chain. So with GuardDuty, what we can do is we can detect all of the areas here, from the reconnaissance up front when the attacker is port scanning and learning about the ports that are there. The SSH brute force attack, through an analytic, we can determine that there's brute force activity that's going on. Once compromise has happened, when the attacker goes to find tools, we'll find the connections to the blacklisted websites. We'll find the unusual ports that they're using. If they try to exfiltrate data, we'll find the DNS exfiltration if they tunnel data over DNS. We'll find temporary credentials that are being used off the instance that they were supposed to be used for. And we'll detect cryptocurrency mining and an unusual instance launch in a region where you've never launched resources before. So if the attacker is using very basic tools, which most of them do, we'll get lots of detections around this. And our customers have found this. So when they turn on GuardDuty, they see lots of detections. More sophisticated attackers will use, they will not be as noisy as they go through this attack chain. And so we may only see 1 or 2 hints of the attack that's going on. And so our job for GuardDuty is to make sure that we're providing as much visibility as we can for all of you to be able to discover that an attack is going on. The GuardDuty findings are on a page that looks like this. And what we do is we add all kinds of identifiers, so resource identifiers, that are part of the finding, and we mix them into the finding so that if we have an IP address, you don't have to figure out which instance that IP address belongs to. We just tell you. We have the instance ID right there, so you can click on it. We add the subnets as well. We add the network interface. So all of that information is included in the finding. And then for the findings themselves, we'll consolidate them so that, and we'll prioritize them. And so it was one of the things that customers really like about our product so far is the consolidated findings and the ability to see everything in one place. And there's a lot of detail here for how to remediate findings as well. All of those findings are JSON documents. So they are presented in the UI, but for every finding in the UI, you can take JSON, you can create JSON from it, and you can use it to build your own applications that use those findings. So, for example, we have many projects going on for auto remediation. So we use AWS Lambda, and we can build auto remediation functions. And so you can build a service that will respond to a finding. In this case, we use CloudWatch events. And with CloudWatch events, we can specify that we want to subscribe to all GuardDuty findings, and we want to send them to a Lambda function. And with that Lambda function, we can push them to a Slack channel, or we can push them to Jira or a ticketing system, or we can fire off a pager. We can also go and we can just turn off a security group or remove a network interface to actually stop the function that's happening. We can rotate credentials as well. So this is a representation of Lambda function in an architecture diagram. And in this case, we'd have the Lambda function directly integrate. And because all of this is JSON, it's very easy to manipulate and to push into these various places. And we have many partners that have also taken this and built connectors for their products. So for example, there's a Splunk collector or a Sumo Logic connector, a connector for IBM QRadar that will take findings and just push them directly into their partner offerings. We have partnerships with Alert Logic and Trend Micro. And Trend Micro can do auto remediation as well. So they can subscribe to the event, and then they can take action on the event as well using their own workflow that's there. So all of those partner integrations fit right into our event strategy. For pricing the service, we price the service on 2 dimensions. One is on the amount of CloudTrail that you process, And one is on the amount of VPC flow logs that we process and DNS data. And what we do is we have a pricing tier. The important message is that our pricing was meant to be very low cost. We modeled it at 1% of your overall spend on AWS. So if you're spending more than 1%, when we have seen a few customers do that, then you're beyond our pricing model. Our pricing model is very much targeted at 1% of spend. And in most cases, that holds up. 99% of our customers fall into that category. But what we did is we add a free trial page to the service where you can go and you can enable the service for 30 days. And we'll tell you what the cost would be each day. So each day you can see at the end of 30 days, the cost would have been this much money, and so you can see exactly how much the service costs so that you can model it for your own case. The service complements Amazon Macie. Amazon Macie is a DLP or a data loss prevention service that focuses on S3 and has some analytics as well. And one of the things that we're doing this year is we're bringing those two services closer together. So we'll have GuardDuty serve for the analytics for these services, and Macie will be very much focused on the data loss prevention aspect. And the two services will integrate much better as well this coming year. So that's one of the big things that we're doing. The other big thing that we're doing is we're going to allow you to import your own DNS logs. So if you have a DNS provider, such as Google DNS, you'll be able to import those logs into the service, and we'll process and analyze those logs for you as well. And lastly, I'd like to just call out some of our partners. I had mentioned Trend Micro and others. One thing that we've seen with this service is that many of our consulting partners are using GuardDuty for MSP, so managed services offerings, and to help customers integrate with their findings as well. And so we have a number of partners like Deloitte Consulting that we're working with that can help with this. And then lots of technology partners like AlertLogic and Trend Micro that I had mentioned that can help kind of create a complete story between AWS and on-premises. And with that, that's the content that I have for you today. I wanted to know if there were any ability to ask questions. I'm happy to answer any questions after the session. Outside, we can meet. I will be here at the security booth also up on the in the main floor where the AWS booth is. There's a security booth, and we'll be there all afternoon with Akihiro-san, who's here with me, and we're happy to answer questions about Amazon GuardDuty. And if you have any requirements for GuardDuty or you have feedback for the team, we would welcome that. Great. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。